Sex Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to Sex Party. I'm your host, Dustin Rybka. How are you guys doing out there? What's a better flavor, grape or cherry? Think about it before you answer. On this episode of Sex Party, I'm going to be talking with Dominique D'Vita. She's a certified Tantra coach. Listen, if you don't know what Tantra is, you're in the right place. If you know what Tantra is, you're in the right place. This is my conversation with Dominique D'Vita.
This week's conversation.
Dominique D'Vita, hello, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks so much for having me here, Dustin. I've been looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Yeah, I'm super pumped about it. I'm really, really excited to have you here. I think with you, I think this is going to be a very valuable episode of Sex Party because it's there's so many different angles and so many different things, but I think that you provide like more there's like more power to your punch, if you will. There's so much there. So
you.
I like, if you would introduce yourself, tell the audience a little bit about what you do and who you are.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Dominique D'Vita. I am a registered nurse and certified Tantra coach and sexpert. To be an expert is something you have to put 10,000 hours in, and I've done my field research, so now I'm a sexpert. And with everything that I've learned, I like to share that with my clients, and I'm looking forward to sharing that here with all the listeners here today. And I just love to bring together what I know about the human body from being a nurse for decades, and then everything that I've learned with the energetics of sex and pleasure through Tantra, and then just some other experiences that I've had. So I'm here to have a eye-opening conversation and how to really get this sex party started. So
yeah, there we go. It's awesome. Yeah, and I think you're a bit of the Doctor Strange type, where you have like a clinical medical on one side, and then on the other side you sort of have this, like, I guess it would be like metaphysical, I guess, right? Or like
exactly
mystic thing going on. So you have like the best of both worlds.
yes.
For me, like I'm probably what you would call, I don't know, like probably a skeptic or like a non-believer. But that being said, the other side to that coin is that I'm insanely fascinated by all of that. I just started practicing meditation a little bit, and that's been like a game changer.
Awesome.
So it's like
yes.
opened me up to all sorts of fun stuff. So I actually love being in that position where it's like, I don't know, but then it's like, oh wow, shit, that does kind of work. So with Tantra, I'm saying it correctly, right? I don't have like
Yes.
the tongue flip like you do.
No, it's okay. Tantra in Sanskrit in India is Tantra, but even sometimes I'm just, I'm from Texas, so sometimes I put a little Texas twang on it and I'm like Tantra. So whatever.
Yeah.
We all know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, because I feel like the natural, like, people are like Tantra, and it's like, nah, that's not, doesn't, like, so when I say Tantra, I'm like, wow, what a cool word. First of all, it's like
Yes,
a fun thing to say.
It's a powerful word. It's a Sanskrit from India is where these practices came from. And these practices were also used in Egypt in ancient times. But the word comes from India and it means expansion or weaving or looming. And it's just bringing things together of all these different energetic practices and everything. And initially, these teachings were just for males only. And it was for the men that wanted to really have these high states of nirvana and enlightenment from prolonged meditation and just using the energy within their body to reach these states of elevated consciousness and expanded consciousness. So these techniques were just for men initially. And then whenever the rulers, the emperors and the rulers of the society would use these practices to be empowered, but they would keep this information away from the common people because it's challenging to control society when society taps into the magic of themselves and their own power. So it's got some really amazing tools for expansion, enlightenment, and mainly to simplify it, though. To keep this shit simple. It's just how the fuck do we get out of our logical brain and stop overthinking and then drop into our bodies and use all of our five senses to truly feel more pleasure and to not be distracted by outside stressors and things like that. So we can connect one deeply with ourselves and then with a lover and have full presence. And then that is a game changer. So Tantra helps you with tools for that.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing, like, especially with the societal stuff, is that there's no better time than right now to be talking about Tantra because of all of the chaos that's going on in the world. You know, we want to tap into that power, right?
Yes. And a lot of people, it's a big misconception. A misconception that I even had is that I thought I needed a partner to begin learning Tantra. But it actually can begin as a solo practice. It's best to begin just learning these techniques, embodying them for yourself, and then sharing them with a lover. So Tantra really just starts with you. You don't have to have a partner to begin. Or even if you're in a relationship and your partner's a little skeptical, like Dustin, you shared that you can be a skeptic. If your partner's skeptical, just you showing up differently will impact the dynamics of what you're experiencing with that person, because relationships are just a mirror for us. So they're going to reflect back to us where we are in relationship to ourselves. So when we work on our inner relationship and our inner world, when we become our own best lovers, then we become better lovers and we attract better lovers.
Right. And that's sort of something I wanted to dive into a lot more too. If you had to boil Tantra down to just like a sentence or two in terms of like the practical usage and the practical like understanding, how would you do that? What is Tantra?
Again, Tantra is just something to help you get out of your overthinking mind and drop you into connecting to your body. Sometimes we can also be disconnected from our bodies if we've had a history of trauma or something traumatic as a child where we don't feel safe to be in our bodies and we're kind of more daydreamy and out in imagination land or overthinking and being very logical. Or we have shame and we don't connect to our bodies because we feel shame around pleasure or sex or things like that. Tantra helps you get rid of these intimacy blocks and help you connect better with yourself. But also with helping mainly with meditation practices and what are called white Tantra practices is meditation, breath work, uses of symbols, other things to help you connect differently to your body by first focusing on your largest sex organ, which is your brain. So that's why it's so amazing that you started a meditation practice, because you're able to have better sex and prolonged states of pleasure when you're able to stay present with yourself and have prolonged states of meditation and have those kind of mindful practices and states in your body.
Yeah. And it is, even when you come to it from a skeptical point of view, meditation, right, at least, it's, you can tell a difference like right away. And,
Most definitely.
you know, maybe that's just like the quieting of the mind or whatever that is, but it's almost like your brain is like, you go through like a cleaning or something. It's very strange, but it's very like welcome and it's very cool. And I look forward to like diving into just the meditation more. So if someone wanted to begin the process of learning Tantra and they wanted to start slow, and what would be the steps that they would go through to start out?
The first thing to do would be to start with a meditation practice, would be the best beginning place. And then after that, adding things with breath work. And I actually just launched an Intro to Tantra course, which is a 6-week course to help people and help guide you on that journey. It's something you can open the modules and go in and have guidance, because there's a lot of tools and practices in here that allow amazing transformation. Tantra reminds me of I always felt before I discovered Tantra that I would compare myself to like a butterfly. And I just felt like I kept staying so long in this like caterpillar stage to cocoon stage. And then I really went in deep and took a step away from dating for a bit and really did cocoon myself and working with Tantra. And then I emerged on the other side as the butterfly. And it really allows powerful metamorphosis and transformation. So when we start to change the relationship we have with ourselves and how we connect with our bodies and how we are able to tap into the energies of our bodies, then everything starts to really expand and open up for us. It's a fucking game changer. And I was late to the meditation party too. I was very resistant to meditation. Even when I started learning Tantra and I would try the meditation practices, I would get so frustrated. I was just like, I just cannot do this. And I'm I finally started using the Headspace app. So if you're wanting to learn a meditation practice, and especially if you're having resistance, the Headspace app, and you can go to headspace.com, it will give you some lessons initially on how to meditate and gives you these little tutorials and then gives you some guided meditations. And one of the best things that I learned through that app is this analogy of, imagine that you're sitting on the sidewalk and all the traffic is driving by you, the cars are driving by. When in meditation, it's not that you're going to have an absence of thought, because that's what I thought too. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there's still thoughts in my head. I'm just sucking at this. I'm not getting
Right.
it. And I would just, then I
Yeah.
would get frustrated. And it's like, no, the thoughts are still going to be there, but it's just like you're sitting on the sidewalk and you allow the cars to drive by. You're not going to go run and play in the traffic.
Right.
So you just sit there and allow them to pass you by. And sometimes if we get connected and we get pulled into a thought, instead of shaming ourselves or being, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that, just have an awareness. Okay, I did that, fine. And just return back to your breath.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge, like, really, really important. Like, we had just reached a crossroads here already in this conversation. I think what's really important is that some people think, like you said, meditating, you have to control all the thoughts, you have to hone in, because that's like one school of meditative thought, is that you have to like quiet the mind, all of this stuff. But then, like, for me, the kind that I started practicing or trying out was more of like a transcendental meditation, where it's like, no, just let all the crazy fucking thoughts about whatever come, and just don't, I mean, just let them be there. When I figured that, like, it was a different kind of meditation, I was like, man, it was a game changer, because then you're just literally sitting there, and eventually, like, after a while, those things do quiet down. So I think that is a really, really strong piece. Like, a lot of people will try to, like, oh, I can't quiet my brain. I can't quiet my brain. And it's like a never ending battle. So they give up. So I think that's really important that you said that.
Yes, and I love that you're doing transcendental meditation. That's a powerful meditative practice. So if you're going to begin, that would be great to do. And even, David Lynch is really big on transcendental meditation. I think also Russell Brand. It really is so powerful and helps with your creativity and all kinds of other things, because the impact that it has on your brain. So you get more creative outside the bedroom and inside the bedroom.
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing is, like, how can you talk about the connection between Tantra and the breathing and the mindfulness, like, with sex, like how, like, cause that's a huge, I mean, it's good for a lot of different things, but like meditating, practicing Tantra, like, what's the connection with sex? Cause it's really more of a connected sort of practice. It's like, you can't have one without the other, obviously, but they really do, like, influence each other, better sex, better, less stress, that sort of thing.
Great question, Dustin. I'm loving this. So the three main tenets of Tantra are breath, sound, and movement. And so whenever you're able to first be in a meditative mindset, one, again, you're disconnecting from your logical mind, where you can be overthinking, where sex is more performative, where you could even be disconnected, or sometimes, I know that you might not be aware of this, Dustin, but I know a lot of your female listeners will be aware of this. Sometimes in the feminine, our intuition is so strong, we can actually sense sometimes when it feels like our male partner is just masturbating inside of our bodies, that they're disconnected, that they're thinking about maybe a porn scene that they've seen, or a fantasy, or whatever. Even it could be a fantasy that they're having with us, but there's so much in their mind about things, and they're not dropped in and fully present.
Right.
Now, whenever you can give the presence to your partner, just like a present, the presence is the truest gift. And when you can be fully present and drop in and connect to that love, to your lover, it creates also, for when males are able to do this, it also creates an extra layer of safety for the feminine. Because so often in society, whenever you talk about going on a date, a first date, if you ask, they did a poll and they asked, women and men what were their biggest fears on a first date. For males, their biggest fear was being laughed at. For
Really?
females, the biggest fear was being killed.
Wow, that's a huge
Complete,
gap.
yes. So,
Oh my God.
yes, because
Jesus.
there are things that put women in danger in dating scenarios and
Yeah.
situations. Yeah, right.
But
So,
like the dude's like, I don't want to be laughed at, and then the woman's like, well, I just want to be able to
just
go
don't
home
kill
at
me,
the
okay?
end of the
That'd be a
night.
great date. Let's just
Jesus Christ. Not do I have food in my teeth, but am I fucking dead? Yeah.
exactly. So
Yikes.
that element of safety, when you can feel safe with a lover, actually allows the feminine to relax and get out of the mind of like analyzing things and needing to wonder and check for safety cues, even if they aren't aware of it. Sometimes because of generational trauma and from our ancestors being passed down in our DNA, we're still a little hypervigilant. And meditative practices also help you to let go of those states of mind and relax. Another thing that's great too about breath is if you look at, whenever we're talking about your root chakra, which is a chakra and energy center in Tantra in India, we work on the energy centers. And the root chakra is in your perineum at the base of your tailbone. And a lot of people are really uptight in their anal sphincter. We've all heard people, we've said like, oh my gosh, they're so uptight, they're such a tight ass, like whatever.
Right.
But they can be having a lot of stress in their bodies. And also from ancient times in our DNA for both males and females, in past, we had to worry about, was a saber-toothed tiger going to jump out as any moment? So there were these safety things that were ingrained in us where we always are kind of being on alert for attack, right?
Yeah, right.
So whenever we have this stress because of modern day life, not meditating, and we're keeping our stress levels higher, then what happens is your anal sphincter will tighten up. And then when your anal sphincter tightens up, your jaw tightens up and your eye sphincter tightens up. Whenever you use things like breath and breath work and using a breath practice, even if you just take a few minutes a day and just drop into your body with some nice breaths, because breaths are like love notes to your body. And you take some deep breaths and you just feel safe in that moment and you drop into your body and check in, you're actually switching over from being in your left brain, your logical brain, to your right brain. And that's where you're going to feel more pleasure. So whenever we can spend more time in this right side of our brain, we actually are able to relax more. And then those sphincter muscles relax. And so then orgasms and pleasure flow more easily. Also, the other benefits of that is when you lower your stress levels and you lower your cortisol levels, then you lower risk of getting disease and things like that. Because disease is just dis-ease, discomfort in our body, right? So these practices help you to lower your cortisol level, and then having all this pleasure as a byproduct of this can actually enhance your feel-good hormones and decrease your stress level even more. So, pleasure is medicine. So breathing helps you connect more into your body and drop in, helps you to relax your muscles and let go of the tension. And then when I say the three main tenets of Tantra are breath and sound, because sound is like a thief and it steals that tension from our bodies. So that's why moaning is really great during sex, because it just, oh my gosh, you get to let go of that sound. Even if you just if everyone here right now, if you were just to take a nice full deep breath, and then the breath you exhale and you just go, ha, and just make that sound or a sigh, and how that can just relax your body and help you drop in, because you're letting go of tension in our body. So for males, if males have a lot of tension in their body, they can ejaculate more quickly. And for females, if we're holding a lot of tension in our bodies, we are not able to surrender and be receptive to the pleasure and be in our most orgasmic states.
Right. I mean, so let's real quick jump back to the tight asshole thing. So basically what you're saying is a large portion of the world is just walking around with insanely tight assholes.
Exactly.
And that we need to relax the tight assholes. And the first step to doing that is to breathe, like to remember to breathe throughout the day. And and when you're taking a breath, it's not just like a little, you know, weak, like, like you're the kind of want to breathe with like your belly, right? Your stomach, like you kind
Exactly,
of, okay,
exactly.
yeah.
And
All right, I'm catching on.
I'm so glad you brought that up too, because one, I'm a registered nurse. So as a nurse, when I would work in recovery room and I would take care of infants or little newborns that were having surgery, whenever babies and everything are little, the way we count their respiratory rate is we actually put our hand on their bellies and count from how they're breathing from their belly. Because when we're babies, we actually breathe more deeply. We breathe from our belly. What happens in our society is because we start to model after the parents and the older people around us, we get so restricted and shut down in our society. We get so worried about what other people think that we start to breathe just from our rib cage from here up. But naturally, when we're born, we breathe with more expansion. But then we don't want our breathing to be so visible, right? So we're just always like playing small, dimming our light, shutting down. And when we're shutting ourselves down and we keep doing that, we're shutting down our pleasure, we're shutting down our power. So it's really important that we do these things to expand our energy, expand our breathing, and breathe fully, because we're not giving our body the deep breaths that we need. We're breathing more shallow and we're being more contracted.
Yeah, I mean, that's so logical, right? Like it's just there is no mystic to any of that shit. It's like it's very logical.
It's science.
And so yeah, it's science. So I really like appreciate you putting that that logic to it. So people listening to this are like, "Oh, like this isn't some like, you know, elevate your thinking, like whatever, like this is like has some logic to it, like duh, right?"
Yes.
So yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, that's the thing is like I just learned about breathing from your belly versus, because when I take a deep breath, I do it like from my chest. I've always done it, right? And it's great, but like then I tried doing it from the belly and it was like game changer. Like what the fuck? I had no idea. It just felt so much more like restorative, and like it like, you know, even just for a little bit, it sort of clears up that stress for a little bit or whatever, and relaxes your asshole, I guess. So
Yeah.
it's
You
great.
know, we don't want to be uptight assholes.
No, I know, right? And
It's not very pleasurable.
not at all. Yeah, for anyone. Um, okay, so
Can I share a little more on this, on the breath and the power of the breath? Because
absolutely.
I have an awesome tip for everyone listening. This is really
Yes.
powerful for females, but this is also a good tip for males to know about as well. So you can help your lover with this one. So a lot of time with breath, when we breathe more deeply, we're actually able to experience orgasmicness more easily and more pleasure. So one thing when you're having sex, we need to step away from the performative aspects and just enjoy the journey and be like, how much pleasure can I experience in this moment? Because there can be the pressure to perform, the pressure for a female, like I feel like I'm supposed to orgasm or my partner's gonna be disappointed, and vice versa. The males can feel that pressure too, right?
Right.
So if you just enjoy the journey, but one thing that's super helpful is to breathe deeply and just imagine that like where your pussy is, and for males your sex organ, but your penis, but where your sex organs are, and imagine that from there and up inside the body.
Ah, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, you hear that?
Go,
Wow.
buddy, go.
I know, Speed Racer.
He's excited.
I know. You know, some people perform on the road, some people perform in bed. You know, wherever.
Boom. Yeah.
So in the streets or in the sheets.
Yeah. Nice job.
So anyway, so you imagine that you have from your pussy, then going all the way up to the top of your head. Imagine you have like a straw in the center of your body, and that you're just breathing deeply all the way from your pussy, all the way up to the top of your head. And that allows that turn on. So as you start to get more aroused, you just want to breathe up and allow that to surge through your body. And that even helps males experience full body orgasms too. Men can do this as well if you tap into your breath and just don't keep all of the turn on in your pelvic area. But for females, there's been so often, I've had this experience too, where I just knew I was on the verge of a powerful orgasm. I could just feel like I was just almost there, and the buildup, it was insane. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to feel so good. And then it just would escape me. And I was like, where the fuck did that go? And then I learned about breath work. What it's like is, imagine like you have a candle and there's the flame to the candle. to keep the flame going, it needs oxygen.
Right.
So often right before this big orgasmic moment for females, subconsciously unaware, we don't notice we do this. We tense up because there's so much pleasure. It kind of feels overwhelming. We tense up and then we hold our breath a little bit. And when we hold the breath, it's almost like snuffing out that flame on the candle.
Yeah.
And then it just dissipates and goes away. So as a male, when you can tell your partner's having a lot of pleasure, you can even whisper in her ear and you can demonstrate, breathing deep, like model that for her and breathe deeply. And then you can experience that pleasure going all the way, through the body too. But just say, hey, take a deep breath, like breathe in deeply and see how that impacts the pleasure, because it'll be more easy to orgasm and you'll feel more pleasure in those moments. And even when you self-pleasure, take the time and just breathe in deeply and breathe all the way. You can practice that out on yourself and just see how that pleasure becomes more of a full body thing and how it expands.
Yeah, no, and that's so fucking great. Like this whole thing is great because I feel like, anxiety, where it affects everything, but with sex, like you can't have an orgasm and anxiety in the same space, right? So it's like this helps to put you into a state where there isn't the anxiety is sort of depleted, and then your orgasm can flourish, right, if you will.
Yes.
And so I feel like that's really important because we're sort of, I don't know, at least in the culture, I feel like it's like you meet somebody, or at least in my experiences, it's like, okay, come on, let's fuck, let's hurry up. Like it's like this rush to like bang each other, and then if someone doesn't come, or if someone doesn't doesn't seem like they're aroused, like it's just like this weird feeling. And I've talked about this before, but it like then adds to the anxiety. And then you've got two people who are anxious, who are like desperately trying to like make each other come, but not really, because all they're doing is adding to the anxiety. So
it's a vicious
that's
cycle.
why, yeah, it really is. And I feel like it affects a lot of what we then say about sex and how we feel about sex. Like, oh, like, I didn't come, or he didn't make me come, or she didn't make, or whatever. And it's like, your pleasure is like your responsibility, right? That's a thing.
Yeah, I always encourage the women that I work with that your pleasure is your responsibility. And it's great to be with a partner that's aware and that cares about your pleasure by all means. Definitely. Right. But we also need to take matters into our own hands as women. And so one of the things that I say is, one, never fake orgasm, because you're giving mixed signals to your lover. Because then your lover's going to think, oh, that really worked for them last time. And they're going to go and do more of that. You don't want more of that. It wasn't working. So, even if you think I'm never going to be with this person again, at least for the sake of all the future women that are going to be with that person, let them know and communicate with them. Don't let them think like, oh, this is such a great move, right? So, as women, we gotta help each other out with this, and and not allow our egos to get in the way is so important.
Yeah.
And so then the other thing with that is, touch yourself if you need to. If you need more stimulation on your clit and you're doing something like, especially if you're doing doggy style and you like more stimulation with your clit or whatever you like, go ahead and do that. Give yourself a hand. And if your lover is intimidated by that and their ego is more important than your pleasure, then that's a whole other conversation that you need to have with them.
Yeah. Get another lover.
Yeah, because your pleasure does matter, but just take the time and have that pleasure, and don't fake it, and don't feel shame about it, because you can experience pleasure in a lot of other ways. Yeah. And, it's really good to communicate, because it does put a lot of pressure. And when you spoke on anxiety, that's also the reason that meditation is so good, because sometimes we can be intimate with a partner or lover, and then we think of the long laundry list of things that we didn't finish for the day, or the dirty laundry in the corner, or something stressful that happened during the day, or something, a bill or whatever that's popping up. And that's disconnecting us from that moment of experienced pleasure. And it also, we're connecting more to the anxiety and the stressors of our daily life, instead of really being fully in states of pleasure in the bedroom where we're letting go. That's our time to escape from all the pressures from the world and really tap into the power of pleasure and, having this amazing connection with a lover without even the destination always having to be an orgasm, right? It doesn't always have to be that way, because are you having intimacy? Are you having connection? Are you still feeling pleasure? So letting
Right.
go of performance is important.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do anything, let alone have an orgasm. Like when all you can hear is the Honda CRV guy driving back and forth in your mind. Well, so yeah, stress is a motherfucker and anxiety is a motherfucker. And it's like those things literally prohibit good times. They prohibit orgasm, they prohibit laughter, they prohibit, joy, if you will, right? So
Yes.
that's basically why I wanted to speak with you, because I felt from my very extremely limited knowledge of Tantra that you could, as you are, walk us through it. And like, people could take away some things to maybe try, even just in the more basic sense, the breathing, the being more mindful. Like I just feel, again, like it's always like this rush, right? Like sex, it's, with another person is a dance. Like what happens if you, like, at a wedding, right, and you just pick up another person without asking and start dancing with them? Like I had an uncle that used to do it all the time, like drunk at like every, and it never worked out good, right? Like somebody always ends up on the floor. So it's like you have to like communicate with your partner the same way you would, if you were not my drunk uncle. So it's like there's that takes two to tango bullshit that people always say. It's really true, like with sex and with any sort of intimacy, any sort of like sexual activity, like a conversation, for fuck's sake. Like, you know what I mean? Like it takes two people to really be engaged. If one person's on their phone or like, trolling Instagram and you're trying to talk to them about something that means something to you like automatically you feel like turned off. And
Yeah, because you're not
I
feeling connected, because we want to feel
exactly,
connection and we want our lovers to pay attention to us, right? We want to
yeah,
feel.
you took the words right out of my mouth. And that's why you're here, because I really want to hone in on how do the listeners get more connected to themselves and then therefore their partner? How do we take a time out and say, let's reassess? I feel like a lot of relationship problems, again, I'm not qualified to talk about relationships, but here we are, like how do they have that conversation with themselves first and then in turn with their partner or their friend or their sex, so I love
Exactly. And
that.
the other thing with conversation too is, even if females are not, if they're shy about expressing to a lover what their desires are, or they don't want to feel like they're giving too much direction, just even like moaning a little more when there's things that you like, or just saying, yes, that feels so good, or just giving some kind of feedback. That way you have a feedback loop and your partner can be aware of the things that you're enjoying, and just taking that awareness with your lover. And then the other thing is, whenever you're experiencing Tantra, what helps so much is whenever I look at the chakras and the energy centers in your body, there's these spinning wheels of energy in your body. This is a little more metaphysical, but it's true. They actually recently did some scans with some different isotope, and they could see the vision of these energy centers in the bodies. But this was something that was discovered by these techniques thousands of years ago. And then people just trusted that it was there. But whenever you start to work with the energy centers that you have, and inside your body, you have 7 main energy centers from your root chakra going all the way up to your crown chakra. And most people just are operating from their bottom 2 of the 7 chakras, and they're closed down. And especially a lot of us have a blocked heart chakra. And whenever, for females, especially when our heart chakra is open, our orgasms flow more easily. We're more orgasmic when that heart chakra is open. But we shut down our heart chakra because of the mother-father wound, which I help my clients on, or heartbreak from a past lover. And we're shutting down, and we put this walls and this armor up to protect ourselves. And we feel like we're keeping the bad out, but we're also keeping the good from coming in. So we're also blocking ourselves off. Whenever you're able to understand the subtle energies of the chakras and the energy centers, then you're actually able to experience more pleasure with your lover, because you'll start to, on an energetic level, you'll get more tuned into sensation. Instead of overthinking, you start really feeling and dropping in with your body. And then whenever you're able to do that, it is like this beautiful dance with your lover, because if both of you are aware of your energy, you can even sense the energy and the surging and anticipate what your lover wants. And it's like your intuition and your third eye starts to kick in, and you just instinctually can connect in, like, how do I feel like they would want to be touched? And you just have a beautiful dance with your lover once you start understanding and fine-tuning those energy centers within your body. So it's really powerful, powerful, magical, game-changing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and they in turn will start vibing back with you, and then on next thing you know, you're dancing. You know what I mean? You're doing whatever the thing is. You're, whether it's sex or conversing or dance or whatever. You know, when you have that connection, you know, that's charisma. That's you know, whatever word you want to put on it, but
And the
that's when,
chemistry.
yeah, there we go. That's when the magic happens. You know, and
Yes.
it's super important, and it's increasingly rare with in our like super stressful, like tight ass fucking society that we're in now. So that's why these conversations are so important. Something that I, in researching you, that I a statement you made, which to me is like just a insane mic drop. When I heard you say it, I was like, holy shit, how powerful is that? And it's, we all come from sexual energy. So why is there so much shame around sex? Like, literal mind, like, we're all here because there was sexual energy between two people. Literally, like, all of creation comes from sexual energy. Like,
Exactly.
how brilliant is that? Like, that is so cool. And so I mean, I had to think about it for a minute. Like, wow. So if you can expound, like, you know, on that a little bit.
I'd love to. I'd love to. Yeah, because there's so much shame around sex in our society, and people
Yes, there is.
repress it, and they don't want to talk about it, and it's so taboo, but it's the very reason for our existence. And so it's really wild to me, like when I'm on social media platforms and they'll be like, your content doesn't meet community guidelines. I'm like, well, there would be no fucking community if it wasn't for sex. So I don't know how this is so bad. But then we can turn on TV and see violence and murder and blood and gore, and even let our kids watch that, and that's okay. Right?
Right.
And these destructive things, but something as beautiful as sex. Because if we use sex at its highest vibration with good intention and beautiful connection, sex can be such a beautiful thing, just like Marvin Gaye would sing about, like this amazing sexual healing that's available to us. It's just that we haven't been given the proper sex education. And so often to learn about sex, we turn to, and our parents didn't get the proper sex education. So when they talk to us about the birds and the bees or whatever, they probably didn't have a lot to share with us either. Like, these practices I'm teaching are thousands of years old, and then were kept away from people for so long. And so, you know, we can get this misinformation. So then we go to look at porn to learn about sex. And then that's a big problem, because that's acting. And the women there aren't really having orgasms. They're faking orgasms. And then males are thinking, oh, women really love that. And then they're trying to do that in the bedroom and bring those moves to the bedroom. And there should be a total thing, just like you wouldn't watch Fast and Furious and then go learn how to drive after watching that. You shouldn't try to learn how to fuck based on what you saw in porn.
Well, whoever's driving around outside your house definitely watched a lot of Fast and Furious.
I have the whole, the whole team is right
Yeah,
outside,
it
right?
sounds like Mad Max out there.
Sorry about that.
No, I think it makes for a better show. Fuck it.
Okay. So yeah, we have the race cars, and then it's like, slow down. Like, they need to slow down, and they need to slow down in the bedroom too.
Like, for real. Like that's a perfect example. It's almost like they're giving us like an artistic move to show us, like, hey, this is what you shouldn't do. You guys are talking about slowing things down and breathing, and they're like,
I'm from
popping
Texas.
wheelies and shit.
I'm from Texas. I'm like, I'm really located at a racetrack. I just didn't want to let you know my secrets out.
It's so funny. So funny.
So yeah, it's just so important though that we're able to, like, slow down in sex and not speed things up. Because especially for when you look at the orgasm gap, females, it takes over 20 minutes for women to get fully to the higher states of arousal. Or males, the arousal can happen with a sudden onset and then it can go away and diminish quickly. Or women, it can take a little time. Like we need to be preheated. You know what I mean? We need that foreplay so that our arousal can build up. And if it takes women when partnered sex to have orgasm, it takes about 20 minutes or so. And if a male doesn't last 20 minutes or longer, then the female can end up just getting frustrated because the female's like, I'm just starting to get turned on. It's almost like we're getting treated with blue balls. Do you see what I mean? It's like we're getting turned on and then it's game over. So then when males are like, oh, my partner doesn't want to have sex with me anymore, I'm just like, you know, or I have female clients that are like, I don't want to have sex with my husband anymore. It's not doing anything for me. And they're wanting to shut down. I'm just like, have your husband work with me and I'll teach them some things. And then when I do that, the women are more interested in have a higher sex drive than the male because they're finally getting that soul satisfying sex that we've been craving for so long.
Yeah. I mean, it is an insanely vicious cycle because it does like plague all sorts of stuff. Like when the pleasure is like one-sided, it's the worst because the other side that's left sort of like, oh, that sucked, or that would, like, you're right, people do tune out, they don't want to have sex, and then there's this huge thing. I mean, think about how many divorces, I'm sure you see it all the time, like how many people were divorced or cheated, like because they just hadn't had an orgasm in like 4 years or whatever it is. And it's like, it's just incredible to think like that the reality of it all might be, hey, like, let's slow down, like the guy outside, and take a deep breath and talk about this, right? Maybe not even talk about it verbally, but like talk physically about it, you know, try to move as one. If the solution is that simple, not that it's simple, but if it's that logical, we'll say, and people don't even see that.
Yes, the thing to slow down, I'm going to do a quick demo for you just to try out if you can try out and if your listeners can try it. So I want you to just get your hands together, put them together, and then rub your hands back and forth really fast together. Okay. Now I want you to just slow down. Just slowly move your hands back together. Now notice how much more sensation you feel when it's slow than when it's fast. Okay. Now kind of close your eyes a little bit, and then I want you to just take in some nice deep breaths. And breathe in deeply, and then just try to feel the energy between your fingers, between your hands. You could even move your hands a little bit apart, like a few centimeters apart, a half an inch. And just feel if you can kind of feel that energy in between your hands.
Yeah, you can definitely feel like the warmth, the heat.
Yes.
For sure.
And even with your chakras and your energy centers, you feel this kind of energy between you and your lover also. Okay, now you can open your eyes. And what I want to share with you is that when you slow down, the female can feel so much pleasure. So when males watch porn, for example, and they see that jackrabbit movie and they're going really fast, the males are working really hard. You're doing extra hard work. You're really exerting yourself. You're going to fatigue more quickly. And because you're doing so much work and you're thrusting so hard, then you can feel like, oh, she must really be enjoying this. I'm really giving it to her. But actually, our brain cannot process that rapid movement that quickly. So when you go slower, we actually will feel more. And sometimes even in stillness, like if I'm with my lover and we're just still and pause for a moment, I can actually have an orgasm then because I can feel so much more energetically even than whenever there's like too much movement going on. So that's
does that mean that you could teach me how to throw a fireball?
Yes, that's going to be on the next episode.
Is that you think that's where that comes from though? Like in mythology, like, you know, when because of that sort of energy, you can feel, because you really can, you can feel like the heat coming off of, and if people interpreted that like, you know, Street Fighter.
We have a lot of energy. Exactly. We have a lot of energy. We have energies, chakras, and energy centers in the palms of our hand too. That's an extension of our heart chakra. So So, but I do want to share about the hand thing, going slow.
Yeah, for sure.
Even the females here, you could share that and have your lover try that and just explain to them, like, sometimes when you go slower, I actually feel more pleasure. It can be more pleasurable because just how the sensation is felt. And then for males, when you self-pleasure masturbate, it's important that you don't always jerk off so vigorously because then you're desensitizing your penis. So then if you're not, thrusting so fast and going back and forth and being more aggressive, you start to lose the erection. So you want to be able to play around with a more gentle touch whenever, and slower things whenever you're self-pleasuring and maintaining an erection through that, so that whenever you're with a woman that you're able to stay erect when you're able to slow down. And then for females, if we're using sex toys that are very, like an intense vibrator or something, sometimes with some of those vibrators, it's good to put like a little towel or washcloth in between us, so to minimize that vibration a little bit. And because we can also desensitize ourselves, and then because a penis isn't going to be, having that same vibration as a sex toy. And so we just have to be aware of that. So we can play around with, sometimes we may want things a little harder or faster, or then are we also able to tap into slowing down and the slower sensual sex?
And no one is saying like one way is better than the other, whatever. What I'm hearing like ultimately come through a lot with what you say, it is like to be vocal about what you want, right? To talk to your partner, to talk to yourself. Like it's a common theme on this show with all the different guests that I have, that we keep coming back to this idea that it's like, like be honest with yourself, talk to yourself, and also then take that out of your head and into your conversation with whoever you're having sex with, or whoever's in your life or whatever. Like communication really is, why is it that it's so insane for us to communicate with each other?
It's so challenging to have intimacy. Like, it's okay to fuck somebody, or we can be on a surface level with a lover and be skin to skin. But can we be on a deep level, like soul to soul, heart to heart, and a deep connection with someone? And so it can be really scary and edgy practice. One big practice for Tantra is for more intimacy is eye gazing, because it's into me you see. And when you can hold eye gazing with your partner, it will deepen that connection, right? But so often that feels awkward. We want to have the lights off. We want to close our eyes. We don't want to communicate, but it's just like, we can literally have sex and fuck this person, but we can't have a conversation with them about what our needs are. All of a sudden we close down and we don't feel comfortable with that. But I saw some meme that was this like, my grandma says, if you can put his dick in your mouth and you can talk to him about what you want. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we can have sex, but then we don't want to talk about sex. And also for females, we need to communicate what our erogenous zones are and share that with our lover, because we're all differently. We can be like snowflakes, right? And certain areas on our vulva or labia or clit might be hypersensitive or not as sensitive, and we might enjoy certain pressure or touch here. And we need to stop expecting for our lovers to be psychic. Like, we just need to let them know, or even have a thing where it's like, I would love to watch you masturbate. Would you like to watch me masturbate? And just show them what feels good for you, so that we can start learning more about each other's bodies.
Right. And that can be incredibly kinky and incredibly like a super different turn on if you haven't done that with your partner, if you haven't gone to that place. And people think like, it's so awkward or weird, or I'm not doing that or whatever. Do it. I feel like people would be amazed how easy that is after you've like communicated with someone, but by all means, please communicate before you start masturbating in front of someone. But
yes, always, it's a communication thing. You want to ask that outside the bedroom.
Yeah, quite a few celebrities have gotten in trouble for masturbating without consent in front of people. So make sure you get consent and you're communicating with your partner before you do that. Something else that you tapped on that I think is really important in what you do, and also like it's just important to bring up, is this idea of shame and maybe why people want to have sex with the lights off, and maybe why people don't want to admit certain things or their desires or whatever. But I feel like you'd be amazing to ask about this idea that people, but mainly women, have been meant to feel like shameful about their orgasms, and therefore, now however long later, generations and forever later, it's like this societal anchor that's passed down, like that, where women don't feel comfortable enough to actually come. Where is that coming from, and like how can we fucking get past that? Because that's like fucking gross, man. Like it's just one of these things where it's one of the worst things that could happen. Like, come on, let's take a shot at this.
Okay. I love that you're wanting to talk about this. This is important.
Yeah.
There's so much shame about sex and sexuality, period, for both males and females. But there's an added thing for females where there's a lot of slut shaming. And there's the old thing that's been in our society for a long time, the Madonna whore complex, where women that enjoy sex, or, oh, she's a nympho, or she's a slut, And so if we're fully embracing enjoying sex, then we're judged. And so a lot of those things it may be imprinted on us, even on a subconscious level more than a conscious level. So we have this disconnection of showing our pleasure, because a lot of times women can orgasm on their own, but not in partnered sex, because then we're starting to worry too much with how porn has impacted us. We start worrying about performance. We start worrying about how our body looks. If I'm on top, the number one position for females to be able to experience orgasm is being on top. But if a woman is too self-conscious about how her breasts look, how her belly looks, this and that, and she's in her mind worrying and not tapped into her body, then that's going to impact her pleasure. When we're solo and by ourselves, we're not worrying about what anyone else thinks, and we can really drop in and connect to our bodies and have pleasure more easily. So if you're not comfortable with a lover and you're self-conscious, a fun thing to try, and always ask for consent ahead of time, is just, would they be open to being blindfolded? And they don't need to know why you want to blindfold them.
Right.
Just say, I'd like to play with that as a sensation play, so your other sensations are heightened by being blindfolded. And just blindfold them, and then be on top, and just have as much fun as you want to have, and allow yourself to experience that pleasure. And a lot of times I've had clients too, they'll say, I'm self-conscious about my O face. I'm worried about what I look like. I'm like, well, how do you feel about your lover's O face? Oh, I was like, do you laugh at them in your mind? Or do you think it's funny or something? She's like, no, I don't. I said, well, what makes you think they feel that about you? It's such an honor for your partner to be able to see you in your full orgasmicness.
Yeah.
So one of the edu practices that I work with my clients is I invite them on some self-pleasure rituals with Tantra, but also one of the practices that we do is self-pleasuring in front of a mirror, so that you can see how amazing you look in those ecstatic states of bliss and feel more confident when you're with a lover. So a lot of it is like the body confidence, negative self-talk. This is why, again, meditation practices will help you so you can not be stuck in overthinking, and you can connect more into your body. So even if you're worried about something and you can't connect, focus on your lover even. Focus a little bit more on like, how are they breathing? What's happening in their body? And then drop back into your body. Where is this feeling good? Because the way you look sexy isn't on the outside. It's how are you feeling from the inside? That's what's sexy. So can you drop in with all of your 5 senses? Taste, touch, smell, hearing, all of those senses, and how much can you experience pleasure using all of your senses? And when you start to be more in touch with sensing and feeling instead of overthinking, it can really make a huge shift for you to be able to experience deeper states of prolonged pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's huge what you said about the blindfold, because I feel like most people would look at that as like a dom sub type of thing. But if you reverse it kind of, right, and you blindfold your partner and you kind of just like use their body, maybe that eliminates a lot of the shame, stress, like whatever, and you can work with that. So it's like, because they can't see you or whatever it is. But that's you're full of game changers. You have all these game changers.
Thank you so much. One thing that I wanted to suggest to Victoria's Secret is that in their dressing rooms, they have more like of a candlelight lighting instead of harsh fluorescent lights.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, Mad Max.
And so what will happen? I don't know. There's some race today that I didn't get informed about. My apologies. But anyway.
It sounds like you're being like lifted up. The whole house is being like lifted up by like a Independence Day spaceship or something.
So they're coming for me. Anyway, so oh my gosh, now I'm losing my train of thought about what I was going to say there.
It's all the Texas Republicans coming to stop you from making women come.
Yeah, they're not down for this at all. And my friends were like, "Why did you go back to Texas?" I was like, "Well, they need some more open-minded thinking here." You know?
Yeah, you're in a spot where you're probably the most needed. Like you're in a ideal place to help. I mean, those guys that are circling your house right now in RVs or whatever the hell's going on, like they could probably use a conversation like this.
Yeah, I've been thinking that. I've been thinking they have some issues.
Just go out there with a sign that says, "Hey, stop. I'll talk to you about it. You can make her come, I promise."
They're focusing on revving the wrong engine.
Man, you have a lot of mic drops. I love it. I love it. I love it.
So just being able to experience pleasure in our body is so important. And I'm not sure what the question was before that. I got distracted with the racing.
Well, I think it's just like part of being human, right? Is like some people would say like, we deserve pleasure, or and that's like something that you can decide for yourself. But the idea of being a human is the ability to feel pleasure, right? And if you're not doing that, you're taking away from the human experience, full stop. So when you don't feel pleasure for a long time, then you get anxiety, depression, and sometimes it's just something there, you don't know what it is, or you're just not feeling pleasure. And that is a huge, you almost stop. I mean, you almost like lose a part of your humanity, maybe?
Well, you're actually losing a part of disconnecting from your power source, because our sexual energy is our most creative energy. It's our life force energy. We were literally created from sexual energy. So we don't just have to create a human life with that energy. We can also create the life our heart desires. We can focus through sexual transmutation techniques, focus that energy and channel it towards our creative interests to really tap into our creative genius. These techniques were used by Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, Steve Jobs to tap into their creative genius. So a lot of times males, they may not have as much of a drive to go for their goals or their mission or their purpose if they're ejaculating frequently, because they're draining their life force energy daily. For females, we get charged up by our orgasms. We lose energy through menstruation and through pregnancy and childbirth. Males, they lose their energy through frequent ejaculation. That's why I teach my male clients how to separate their orgasm from their ejaculation so they can be multi-orgasmic and have stamina for hours, and then they don't feel as drained or lethargic the next day. Because if you notice, right after sex, women can be more talkative, males can quickly fall asleep. So you're literally draining that. And Muhammad Ali would say, I don't have sex for like 4 to 6 weeks before a match, because he loses that extra oomph whenever he's going to go in there and perform in the ring.
Yeah.
You lose that edge. And so you're constantly losing your edge. So I help males with like porn addiction and different things like that are losing their edge in their business and their professional life. And if you've heard of the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, chapter 11 is titled The Mystery of Sex. And it's talking about sexual transmutation. And this book was printed in the 1930s. So it's really edgy that he even mention this in the book, and he couldn't go deep into it just because of, even now, people get
Right.
freaked out when you're talking about sex. So
Yeah.
imagine 90 years ago, right? How edgy this was for him to share this, but it was actually noted in talking about the most successful people of the time. What were they doing to have that success? And it's,
Yeah.
you don't want to constantly leak your energy. So one of my clients is actually a male client, and he's actually having better sex with his wife at 60 than when they were 30. And he was having to use Viagra when I started working with him. And now he's like, I'm pharmaceutical free. I'm fully functioning. My wife's happier than ever. And now he has like
Wow.
hour-long sessions with his wife, and she's having 6 to 8 orgasms. He's like, I feel so much power in my penis. I wish I discovered this 15 years ago. But when I worked with him, I also worked with him some things on intimacy blocks and some things with anger and stuff from an old familial wound that he was able to work through and process. And he says now his wife, he's a new person for himself, and he's become a new spouse to his wife. And his wife had thanked him. Thank you for allowing me to finally get to know you.
I heard that one coming. It was like how the roof is like vibrating.
You know, I like to vibrate over here. I'm sorry. So, you know, and he's just like, you know, imagine after 30 years of marriage, and he has an adult son with her that he's raised, and he's finally letting those walls down so she can have a whole new relationship with him, which
Right.
is so powerful. And she was shy to work with me, but
Sure.
during my sessions, she's in her 60s, she would tell him, oh, tell her thank you. He'd be like, I want to thank you. My wife says to thank you. Is the cutest thing. She was very supportive of the work he did, and it was a game changer for both of them. And they were experiencing more pleasure together, even as you're older. So sex doesn't have to diminish. Oh, and I know what you're going to say now. That sexual energy too, if we repress or we disconnect or we have shame over our sexual energy, we're literally disconnecting from our power center. Of course, society, government, whatever, is going to want us to be disconnected and feel shame about it, because it lowers our vibration and our energetic frequency, and we don't show up as powerfully for ourselves in our lives, and we're actually easier to control and manipulate. So shame is a tactic for control.
Wow. Again, another slam dunk there. Huge. Okay.
I'm slam dunking on this racetrack. I'm here. Let's go.
For sure. I think so. A big topic. Basically, like if we're gonna go back to Tantra and talk about like just like in closing, let's say if you were to close it, but you wanted to give everybody listening sort of a basic like 1, 2, 3, or like a basic like one, you know, step that they could take into their daily lives that's simple, that they could practice, you know, as soon as this show is over, and they go and rate 5 stars, and they go and subscribe to all your social media, and we send the police to your house to figure out, well, after all that's done, what can someone take from this interview with you that they could use that would start them on the path to empower their life and in turn their sex life?
To start with a meditation practice and to breathe deeply so they can experience that pleasure in their bodies. So just to tap in, whatever you can do to connect more to your body is going to be the biggest game changer for you.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's huge. And something that I wanted to touch on briefly, because I know we don't have time to jump into the whole thing, but can you just explain in your Doctor Strange logical but also amazing mystical way, what is a soulgasm and how does it differ from just your basic orgasm?
Oh, this is such a great question. Whenever you just have a regular orgasm, it's just all deep in your pelvic area, your genitals, you're feeling that pleasure. For me, whenever I had what they call, whenever you have your chakras in your energy centers, there's this certain energy within Tantra and Kundalini yoga called the Kundalini energy. And it is like this, it's described, the visualization for that is almost, you think of like a serpent, like the caduceus, like the snakes that go up around the wand. That's actually how it is with your spine. You have this inner flute in Tantra. It's called the Sushumna Nadi. And it's this inner flute from your sex organs all the way to the top of your head where your chakras are aligned. Well, the Kundalini energy is wrapped around your root chakra at the base of your spine. When you start having awakening, that energy can just start to wrap around and go all the way up to the top of your head. And it's called like having an awakening. So whenever I had an experience when I was with someone who had studied Tantra for a year, had mastered these techniques of separating orgasm from ejaculation to be multi-orgasmic, and I was able to have prolonged states of pleasure with him for 5 hours. That's whenever this, yes. And I didn't know that he had studied Tantra. I didn't understand about that whenever I was first with him. He shared that with me later. And when I had this experience, what happened was, since I was able to have these prolonged states of bliss and ecstatic bliss that allowed that energy to continue to move all the way through my body and my energy centers up to like my third eye, my crown chakra opened, and I had an awakening. And that's when I said I felt like that orgasm like rocked me to my core. Like it was like on a soul level, I felt that, not just on a superficial level. So why I think Tantra is so important is that we're taught how to have superficial sex. Watching porn is superficial sex. We know how to be skin to skin with someone, but can we be heart to heart? Can we be soul to soul with someone? Right. And if we're wishing, oh, I wish I could have a soulmate, I would love to be with someone and have a soul matched partner. Well, how are you going to attract a soulmate or develop a soulful relationship when you're only having superficial sex?
Yeah.
So you need to be able to have those deeper practices and that ability to really be present and experience prolonged states of pleasure that can be so healing, just like Marvin Gaye would sing about. And that's how I had my awakening. And the second time I had that experience with that person, was like 2 nights in a row when we were first together. And the second time I was just like, I just sat up in the bed and I looked him in the eyes and I just want to clone you and give one of you to all my friends. Cause my heart was actually breaking. Cause I was like, I've been giving my friends sex advice for years. And I had already been a guest on Playboy Radio several times. And I was having better sex than the majority of my friends. And my friends were telling me I should write a book. But I realized I had only scratched the tip of the iceberg of what was fully possible for me. And that with this moment, I realized I was able to go so much deeper into the full possibility. And I was like, I don't even know how to begin to share what happened. So that's why I started learning Tantra, because more people in the world need to know this, because this is what helped me start healing my past traumas and things, and go from just reading self-help books that didn't give me tools to really self-actualize. I just kept reading things and staying stuck in my logical mind. I didn't know how to embody the information and start living my life from my heart. Instead of living my life from fear, now I live my life from a place of love.
No, that's huge. That's amazing. So were you actually having a 5-hour orgasm? Would you consider that? No way.
Well, no, I was having great. I'm glad that you clarified that. I was having 5 hours of pleasure with this person with multiples between, but then it just kept like elevating up. And I could just, in my intuition, I could sense that me being in full, going all out in my pleasure, I wasn't going to push him to the point of no return. Because as a female, sometimes you can feel like you could even amp up your pleasure, but you're like, oh, my partner, that would be game over. If I really go full into how intense I'm feeling and to my full power and my pussy of what I'm experiencing, it's going to like pull that ejaculation from them too fast. So I have to slow things down. I have to dim things down, and as we're restrictive and we're worried about, oh, is that going to be too much? The whole thing with women is so often we're stuck in feeling of too muchness for someone else in so many levels in our lives. So it's like, we're playing small. In this moment, I was like, he didn't even tell me he had mastered these skills, but intuitively I could tell that he wasn't worried that I was going to throw him off what he was trying to do. And so I was able to experience this with no substances in our bodies, 5 hours. And it literally felt like maybe 20 minutes went by, because time flies when you're having fun, right? But I knew so much had happened, but it just was like a blip of time. And it was just like an out of body experience. I can't even begin to explain it. If more people were able to have sex like that, our whole world could change, because it was a very healing and very profound experience for me that I hope to help other people be able to experience. That's part of my life's purpose and mission now.
World peace through sex. basically.
Yes. I mean, because what is the one quote by Mother Teresa? Like, to change the world, if we first, we sweep our own front porch and we take care of our own things, or Gandhi, like, be the change you wish to see in the world. If we could
Yeah.
start to change within us, then we would operate more from a place of love instead of fear. And if we could let go of like all these things where people are hurting one another, is hurt people. So if we could stop our own suffering, when we want to heal the planet, well, it's not going to be any valuable thing to heal the planet if you haven't worked on healing yourself, because it starts with you. Tantra starts with you, the healing starts with you. And when we show up differently from a place of love in the world, then that's going to create a more loving world to be around.
Yeah, and that's amazing, totally. And I think it's also too, like to add to that, like, it's important to point out, you're not shaming people for watching porn, not shaming people for being in porn. You're not like, whatever. No. It's just important to know that those people are like trained professionals. They train for that.
Exactly.
And I think that's a huge distinction. I had another guest from another episode, and they were like, those people are athletes, which is so
they're in
perfect.
Amazing shape.
Yeah.
I have a good friend that's a porn star, and she's been in porn for over 2 decades. She's in the Hall of Fame for porn. I actually introduced her to her current husband. That's and awesome. A surgeon that I worked with. That's amazing. She would talk about her job, and she wouldn't even refer to it as sex. She would refer to it as cardio, because like you say, it's a good workout. The sexercise. She was like, oh, that's just cardio with penetration. That's just how she viewed it.
Yeah. So when you're viewing porn, it's like, if you know that, then that's a healthier way of viewing it. Then, hey, this is reality.
Yeah, this is going to teach me how to be a good lover. Like, no, we're not here to learn lessons from that.
It's just that
it's entertainment.
Simple, that simple like flip of the coin. Like, you're viewing it for, your entertainment. Good. That's what it's there for, but I just wanted to clarify that. Also too, like, to close with something fun, on top of everything awesome you just said about Tantra and healing the world with sex and achieving world peace with sex. To close, so I have a question, and you can choose before I ask it. Do you want there's one question, there's 2 different ways of asking it. One is extremely personal, the other one is professional. So you have to choose first, personal or professional.
Personal.
Oh, wow. All right. Okay. So if you could have sex with anyone and learn from their sexual energy, anyone in history, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. Let me sit here with that. Anyone in history.
Alive or dead.
Or dead. And that I would learn something from their energy.
Yeah, you could have sex with them, and then you could also in turn learn their sexual secrets and all of that stuff. The personal side of that, I shouldn't even tell you what it's going to be, but it's a variation of the same question. But it's a good one.
I don't find this person physically attractive, but based on their wisdom with Tantra, I would probably have to pick Osho, because then I would know everything, because he brought Tantra to the West. So I think that would be a profound experience to see what would be intimacy would be like with someone that is that masterful in Tantra. So.
And if you don't know who that is, go watch the Netflix documentary, Wild Wild Country, right?
Yeah, and then you'll be terrified. You'll be like, why would she ever choose that person?
No, I get it.
But I think there's some things, Margot Anand initially learned from Osho, and she alluded that she had been intimate with him, and she's like a legend in Tantra, has written some amazing books. And then one of my teachers over 20 years ago learned from Margot Anand.
That's awesome. Okay, well, that wraps us up. Dominique D'Vita, thank you so much for your wisdom and your guidance. You're amazing, and people should go follow you. Where can everybody find you?
Oh, thanks for asking. This has been such a fun conversation. Thanks for having me here. Please find me on social medias and Clubhouse. It's at Yes Tantra, YESTANTRA, and my website is also yestantra.com. And my YouTube is Yes Tantra. So I'm most active on Instagram, but I'm also on Facebook. So find me there. And if you feel like you want to work with me one-to-one, you can request a free 30-minute discovery call with me so we can see what goals you have and make sure we're a good fit to work together and that I can support you on your journey. And then I also have online courses and programs if you just kind of want to try it out a little on your own. I have an Intro to Tantra course and a self-love ebook. So I have some great resources to share, and then maybe we can put some things in the show notes. I have an audio file that you can sign up for that will actually help you have better orgasms for females. And I have another file for male stamina to last longer and stronger in the bedroom. So I have those resources for the listeners that are free that hopefully you can put in the notes here.
100%. It's going to help them have better orgasms. We're going to put it all over the place, everywhere.
Yes. We're going to have world peace through pleasure.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It was my pleasure.
See ya. Big thank you to Dominique D'Vita for schooling us all this week. I'm going to learn how to throw that fireball. It's going to happen. Listen, if you guys are in a loving mood, if you are enjoying Sex Party, there's a couple different ways you can express that. If you want to, and you're listening on platforms like Apple, Spotify, literally anywhere, even the bootleg stuff, you can subscribe. So go ahead and subscribe if you want. You could leave a review if you feel inclined. If you're watching on YouTube, hey, how are you? You can subscribe there too. You can like the video. You could even leave a comment. And if you want to chat and you don't feel like leaving a comment, you could hit me up on Instagram, slide in the DMs. You could jump in the DMs on Twitter, slide all over the place. Send me a message, say hello. And you know what? I will see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin at Dustin Rybka.